We're here in the inauspicious surroundings of the Samsung Unpacked press conference here at MWC 2015. There's some dubstep on the stereo. The Wi-Fi password is for the time being working. They provided us all with Ethernet cables. I have no Ethernet adapter, but still, you know, that's a major boon for an event like this. And we're expecting some pretty massive devices to be launched in the form of the Samsung Galaxy S6 and the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, which has two curved sides. So stay with us and we'll hopefully show you some very exciting products indeed.
Welcome to Samsung Galaxy Unpacked 2015.
So Samsung launched two new smartphones today, the Samsung Galaxy S6 and the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. I've got an S6 here. We're going to be taking a look at the S6 Edge in a moment. The S6 is a pretty beautiful device. It's the first Samsung that we've seen that's aluminium around the edge and glass front and back, covered in Gorilla Glass 4, which presumably means that I can drop it on the floor and stamp on it and things like that and nothing would happen, except I'd be set upon by all of Samsung's security guards. Around the back here is a 16 megapixel camera with an f1.9 lens and optical image stabilization. Around the front actually is the camera that Samsung told us a bit more about, which is 5 megapixel, again with an f1.9 lens on it. Theoretically, it's as good as a lot of the rear cameras on other smartphones. Now, Samsung went to some lengths to compare the camera on the back to the camera of a big rival, the Apple iPhone. And strangely enough, in the demonstrations that Samsung showed off, it performed a lot better than those. Now, obviously, we haven't had the opportunity to test out the claims that it absolutely trounces the competition, but there's every reason to think, based on past Samsung experiences, that this is going to be a pretty decent performer in that regard. Around the front's a 5.1-inch QHD screen, that's 2560 by 1440 pixels. It is incredibly high res, you can't see any, and there's no visible pixels here at all, which hasn't been the case in previous Samsung 1080p devices. And it's incredibly sort of fluid in motion as well. There's a new 14-nanometer octa-core processor in this. It's a 64-bit architecture. It seems to run incredibly quickly. Everything that you do on this device is flawless, and that hasn't been the case with a lot of previous Samsung devices. And it's partially possibly down to the fact that that the interface is hugely stripped down as well. There's more words, there are fewer icons, there's generally less clutter on every screen, and without so much stuff going on, it just seems to generally run more smoothly. As with any flagship Samsung, there are of course lots of other features. There's a read around the back that can tell you your heart rate. This here is a fingerprint sensor, and part of the fun of the fingerprint sensor this time around is a new service called Samsung Pay. Now, not the most imaginative name in the world, given the main competition is going to be called Apple Pay, but that does sound very interesting. They've already signed up MasterCard and Visa as partners, and lots more partners coming. But in addition to that, Samsung claims that it works with pretty much any kind of reader. It doesn't have to have NFC. And NFC is the thing that's restricting, in many ways, the rise of mobile payments, because most shops still don't have NFC readers. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. One of the reasons is some people, like previous Samsung flagships like the S5, was that they had removable backs. You could stick a big micro SD card in there and you could swap out the battery. Personally, I don't know anyone who tends to do that on a regular basis, but it was quite a big deal for some people. This is the first Samsung Galaxy device where you can't do that. It is totally one piece and seamless. Now, Samsung claims that that's because its battery technology is more advanced than any previous. It takes half the time of an iPhone 6 to charge this, apparently, and it charges wirelessly. So this puck, just leave it on there and it will charge up in theory. It supports both major wireless charging protocols, which means that if you go to a shop that has wireless charging, a coffee shop, then theoretically it should work. But the really key thing is just how premium a device this is now. Samsung hasn't, with smartphones in the past, invested this much effort making a device that is really sort of gorgeous to hold, that feels like it's made of quality materials, where every hole that's drilled is sort of drilled perfectly, and every button that's machined is perfect too. It really does feel like this is a device that could justify its flagship status, and although we don't know the price yet, presumably flagship price tag too. So it's going to be interesting to see how Samsung prices it, and it's going to be interesting to see the reaction of a market that is increasingly actually sort of aiming towards a lower end price-wise. Devices like the OnePlus One, for example, that will probably cost half as much as this, but this really does feel like it's worth a lot more.
Now we've got the probably 40% more exciting S6 Edge. Now the big difference with this obviously is the two edges to the screen where it curves over. There's a couple of tricks you can do with that. When the phone's off, you can move your finger up and down the side of the phone and get your kind of alarm clock and notifications and things. What you can't do is have that information on when the phone is on. Now, going back to the Note 4 Edge, which was the first Samsung phone we saw with this kind of Edge technology, you could have additional information going on while the screen was on, but because this phone is thinner, you can't have that. There's going to be 4 different colours for the S6 Edge. This is the white one. Now it's not a flat white, there's kind of a pearlescent edge to it. Samsung call it jewel-like. There is also a gold and a black, and then the S6 Edge only colour is a nice sort of racing green, which is quite sweet. Conversely, the S6 is also available in the white and the gold and the charcoal, but it has the exclusive blue colour as well. Same OS, same hardware, same camera as the S6 that Will has already talked about. So you've got the more sensitive to low light f1.9 lens on both the front and the rear cameras. 60 megapixels on the rear, 5 megapixels on the front. The screen is QHD, so that's 2560 by 1440 pixels if you're a Pixel fan. The S6 Edge is running the latest version of Samsung's TouchWiz UI, of course, but underneath that is Android 5 Lollipop, which we've seen on an increasing number of phones and incorporates their new material design, which looks a lot more futuristic. Lines are simpler, there's less kind of skeuomorphism, used to be a word that was popular in the Apple days. So everything's sort of flatter and crisper. Detail has been taken out of things like the contacts list, so it's just a much flatter design. But also they've taken out a lot of confirmation dialogues. Now, Samsung phones were famous for whenever you tried to do anything, a box would come up saying, do you really want to do this? A second box would come up saying, do you want to do this time? Or do you want to do it for all time? Which was exasperating. Apparently they've taken a lot of those levels out, so we'll look forward to seeing if that makes the phone simpler or whether it starts doing things that you don't want it to do in the first place. One of the crucial things for any smartphone owner is battery life. That's the thing that most people complain about. Now, the batteries in the S6 Edge and the S6 are almost exactly the same size, but what they both are is slightly smaller than the one that was in the S5 and also sealed. There's no removable back cover on either phone. However, Samsung have said that just 10 minutes of their plugged into the cable fast charger will give you 4 hours of normal use of the phone. So 10 minutes plugged into that fast charger will also give you 2 hours of HD video playback. Now, we haven't had a chance to try that. If it's true, then frankly, we'll be very pleased. Otherwise, we'll be looking to make use of those wireless chargers that are apparently popping up in all the retailers throughout the world.
So the press conference is over, we've seen the devices, the glow is leaving our lovely Samsung wristbands, and it's nearly time to go home. So the big question that still looms over the announcements from today is how much do these devices cost? Because the S6 Edge is a truly, truly beautiful thing. But it could be considerably more expensive than the S6, which is also, at least on paper, an extremely impressive device. So if it's that much more than the S6, is the S6 going to be the mainstream product? Or is the S6 Edge just going to be that little bit more expensive that makes people go, okay, I want this device because I can't get that in anything else? That's what remains to be seen. In any case, both devices look hugely impressive, and we really look forward to having a proper go with them when we're back in the UK.